This is the Emerson Appalachian, an absolutely beautiful Bowie, in case you cannot see. And it's quickly become one of my favorite Emersons, at least in my collection. This was not one I ever really intended to buy, except that the great and powerful Slicey Dicey bought this to check out and to review. And he had never had an Emerson before. He got this. He did not care for it too much. I mean, he liked it for an Emerson, but has some issues with the overall, I think especially the chisel grind, but other issues. And he asked if I wanted to buy it, knowing that this is a place for wayward Emersons. And I said, yes, please send it my way. So I bought this from him. And so this has a double meaning for me. Not only is it just about, well, it's darn near close my favorite clip point Emerson, but also it's got a little bit of sentimental value too. This is in the usual Emerson makeup. It's 154 cm steel. It's got a wave. This, I believe, was made in 2019. And they stopped putting the date on, I think, around 2016. They also took away the double detent system in 2016, 2015, 2016. And so now it's got a single detent, like most liner locks or frame locks. The single detent is on the lock bar, and now you can flick them open. The double detent on the older models, I have about half of my collection is the older double detent, where the second detent, instead of being on this side, is right in here, pops out of the liner. And the idea is to keep it from popping out or shaking out. And, you know, it does a decent job on those other ones, but I can still shake the other ones out too. So I think it just sort of slows down the action a little bit, makes it more hydraulic, if you will. I've spent a lot of time, spare time, when I have nothing better to think about, thinking about which I like better, the new detent that you can flick open or the old detent, which I'll show in a minute, the double detent that you sort of slow roll out or put a little wrist into, but I don't know, they both have their appeals if you're an Emerson fan. As you can see, this is a clip point, Bowie-inspired blade. And I really like this upswept Bowie shape. Some Bowies have a straight clip, you know, they look more like that. But this one with that beautiful curve, just with that trailing point, I don't know, does something for me. It's very dramatic looking. And it also adds to the length of the belly of this thing. So you got belly from here all the way up to the tip. And because of this scooped out portion, this scooped out clip here, or clipped out scoop, you might say, it gives all that belly. I like the grind lines. I like seeing the grind lines. Yeah, these things are just sweet. Now this is a V-ground blade. Most Emersons now are V-ground. Some are chisel ground, meaning this whole side is flat. But they all have a chisel edge. That means you only see that sharp cutting edge on one side. And boy, I'll tell you, that gets the knife super, super sharp. I mean, look at that. Oops. Look at that against my hand. It is like a chisel. As you can imagine, it's just very, very thin there. It tracks differently when you cut it through material. Say you're cutting through cardboard with this. Since it's not a perfectly symmetrical cutting edge, it will tend to favor one side, in this case, the right-hand side. But after an inch, you get the hang of it and you know how to make up for it. If cutting straight through cardboard is your goal with this knife. It probably isn't, though. I mean, let's face it, this is a self-defense style, fighting knife style EDC. This is not so much a box cutter, though it does the job, definitely. This is not very thick not very thick blade stock. And I have to say, this cutting edge here is really shallow. It's one of the wider edges I've seen on an Emerson, which just makes it all the more sharp. So this would do fine with cardboard if that's your goal. Of course, that's not my goal with this. My goal with this is just to have a very, very capable and you know, high-speed, low-drag knife in my pocket. And I'm just a sucker for Emerson designs. I'll say it. I'm a shallow aesthete. I'm a shallow guy. I just like the way this knife looks and feels and how I know it would perform if you needed to use it for its intended purpose, which is tactical. But, you know, actually not a very tactical guy. Just have tactical tastes, one might say. This is number 193, for what that's worth. You got the usual thumb disc for opening. You also can, like I said, flick it, and then you have that wave. The wave works excellently. Now, did you hear that? This has something I call the Emerson wheeze. A few of my Emersons have this wheezing sound. Hear that? It sounds like it needs oil. It doesn't. It's not that. I'm not sure what it is. Or maybe it needs a certain kind of lubricant. But it's that wheeze. I have it on a couple of Emerson knives. And it's only on the single detent ones. So I'm not sure what that's all about. But you know what? For me, this is it's an emotional connection. And what I mean is, you know, I'm not saying I love this knife and it's like, I don't mean emotional like that. I mean, sometimes you just can't convince people of something's faults or of, you know, something's, you know, if you have your mind made up about a certain band, or well, let's stick to knives. If you have your mind made up about a certain knife and knife maker or whatever, sometimes it doesn't matter the little things that should make you bristle. And maybe this should make me bristle, that Emerson wheeze. But I just don't care because I like these knives so much. You got your jimping up here. You've got your amazing ergonomics. I think that's probably what Emerson is most known for. Their amazingly ergonomic handles. They really do feel... never met an Emerson handle I didn't like. I'd say probably my favorite Emerson is the Sax. I'm sorry, I don't have it right here with me. And the Sax has the least comfortable handle of the whole group, but it's still my favorite Emerson. So I don't know, whatever that means. Maybe it's Stockholm Syndrome. You tell me. You've got the flathead screwdriver pivot, 154 cm steel, which I still love. Still my favorite steel, I think. CPM 154 and 154 cm. I always, with my Emersons, sand down the clip side. You can sand it down on your pockets and go through jeans, or you could just take a piece of sandpaper and sand it down. That's what I've done here. Here you can see where it got sanded a little extra. With the original clip, I was just sliding it under the clip and pulling it out, which was a bad idea because it put a little gouge in that G10. I recently replaced it with this MXG gear clip. This is one of those Emersons that rides a little bit too high for my taste. So now with the MXG gear clip in there, it's perfect. One thing I like about the MXG gear clips is that though this circular hole kind of makes getting these two outer screws a bit of a pain in the butt to get in, I do like the way that circle grips, how my finger fat sinks into that circle there for removing it from my pocket. So you got that. Lanyard hole, etc. Okay, let me show it with a couple of other Emersons, and I chose all Emerson clip points because that's why. This is an older, this is a 2013 CQC13, and this has the double detent. If you look down in there, you can see it on that side. You see the little protrusion, little bar sticking out. This has custom scales from Blades and Such. Tom Engelson of Blades and Such. You can find him on Instagram. He does beautiful, beautiful stuff. I've kind of messed it up a little bit here and there, but I don't care, because that's what my card is all about. It's about taking on your personal carry foibles. Now look at this. 2 beautifully upswept Bowie blades. All right, let me see. So that's, I'll show it with the Iron Dragon. Another Emerson with sentimental value. I bought this from Alex of the Knife Channel, formerly Alex's Knife Box. This is a great one. This is on bearings, and it's a titanium frame lock, as you can see. Has incredibly smooth action, and such a great knife. Beautiful. Designed and dedicated to Richard Bustillo, a legend in the Filipino martial arts and Jeet Kune Do, Ernest Emerson, under whom Ernest Emerson trained and studied back in the day. 70s, I think, those days. Decade of my birth. And then here we have my most recent Emerson. This is the Tiger. Very, in my estimation, very beautiful knife. It's got the handle of the 13 with sort of a blade of the CQC 8 or the Horseman, just, you know, adapted a little bit, made wider, the swedge is longer, but it's definitely evocative of that blade. This was the knife that, oh, you can hear the wheeze on this one. I guess I could take it apart and sand the washers a little bit, right? Are these? No, I don't even remember. Are these bronze washers? Don't remember. But it doesn't bother me. It's part of the character. It's like, oh, it's like whining a little bit that it's got to go back in because it just wants to be out. All right. So it's a big boy. They're all nearly 4 inches long. And then I have a two Consolation Emerson clip point designs here to show off this here Appalachian with. Here it is with the 0 tolerance. Never remember the number. 0630. Look at that. What a beaut. This is such a beautiful knife. And I know a lot of people like the Emerson designs but don't like the Emerson builds. And so they really got into these when ZT made them. This one has a similar blade shape to the Tiger and the 8, CQC 8. And then last, oh, I have my 0640 over there, but whatever. This little guy, this is the CQC K1, CQC K1, I think this was the first little Emerson that came out from Kershaw when they started doing those collaboration knives. I think Rob Bixby of Apostle P called this the single worst knife he'd ever handled, which I think is a bit of hyperbole. I'm sure he's handled worse, but I think it stuck in his craw that it was an American maker doing cheap Chinese, you know, licensing. But whatever. I like this little knife. This will go to one of my daughters when they start dating, if not one of these. All right. Well, thanks for sticking around and checking out this most lovely clip point from Emerson Knives. It's the Emerson Appalachian. Just look at this thing. So beautiful. All right, people. Thanks for watching.